Magandang araw po muli sa ating lahat at ito po ang ating ika-8 na installment sa ating maiksing pag-aaral patungkol sa Biblical Theology. At sa ating lesson po ngayon ay titingnan natin o i-review natin yung mula sa ating simula, ang Genesis, at hanggang sa ating natapos na ang Joshua. Ang nilalaman po ng ating review lesson ay ang sumusunod. Una, babalik tanawin natin kung ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin o at least give a short summary kung ano ang biblical theology. Tapos titingnan din natin yung short sampling din or small sampling ng chronology of the Old Testament. At titingnan rin natin yung timeline ng nitong Pentateuch hanggang kay Joshua. At saka i-draw out natin yung ilang theological themes na matatagpuan dito. At saka po ay itatapusin natin itong lecture na ito sa pagbabalik sa umpisa kung bakit napakahalaga ng Genesis. So nung tayo po ay nagsimula sa maiksing pag-aaral ng Biblical Theology, sinimulan po natin ito sa definition. Ano nga ba ang Biblical Theology? Ginawa natin ito bilang Biblical Theology is a renewed appreciation. So ito ay pagsasariwa, pagpabago sa ating pagtingin sa Biblia sapagkat ito ay theologically unified. Ibig sabihin lamang mula sa umpisa hanggang sa huli ay dikit-dikit. It only points to a singular story. It is also historically rooted. Ibig sabihin makikita ito sa kasaysayan at nakaatang ito sa kasaysayan. At pangatlo, it is progressively unfolding. Ibig sabihin, nagde-develop. Hindi lamang ito one time, big time sa umpisa, kundi ito yung nagde-develop as time progresses. And also, it is Christ-centered narrative of God's covenantal work in our world to redeem sinful humanity. Ibig sabihin, ito ay tipan ng Diyos at nakasentro itong gawa na ito kay Kristo. At ang gawa na ito ay siyang magtutubos sa mga makasalanang sangkatauhan. It is also important to note that salvation history is the history of salvation. Hindi lamang ito ay play of words, kundi pinapakita sa atin na yung mga kaganapan sa ating kasaysayan patungkol dito sa salvation history focuses on the salvation of human beings and issues involving the new heaven and the new earth. So dinadala yung ating pananaw, yung ating mga kaisipan, ating mga puso, ating buong nilalang patungo doon sa pag-asa ng bagong langit at bagong lupa, hindi dito sa mundo na ito. It is also the account of what God has done in order to save lost human beings. Tandaan natin, nagkasala ang sangkatauhan, bumagsak ang sangkalikasan. It is now God is working or has done nang sa ganun ay tayong mga makasalanan ay maaaring makapunta dito sa bagong langit at bagong lupa. So the story of redemption from creation, fall, redemption, and new creation, it should affect the way we think about everything around us. Babaguhin natin nito yung ating pananaw sapagkat nakikita natin ang mundo sa ating paligid in the light of or in the proper lens of creation, fall, redemption, and ultimately the hope of new creation. So napakaganda ng pag-aaral ng biblical theology sapagkat inaayos nito, inaatang nito ang ating pananaw, ang ating pag-asa, ang ating pananampalataya sapagkat ang mga realidad na inilahad sa atin sa pamamagitan ng Diyos ay siya rin ang kikilos na sa ganun ay tayo ay makarating sa pangakong lupa. And now, tingnan naman natin yung ating sample chronology of the Old Testament. So, the dates of the Old Testament are event-driven. Ibig sabihin, yung mga events, yung mga kaganapan ay siyang nakaatang dito, yung kasaysayan at yung mga dating. So, as we fix certain key events, kung ilalagay natin ito sa specific time or date, we can work out other dates and times. However, the earliest events do not provide specific years or refer to specific events or names that can be dated by other means. So, ito yung babala rin sa atin na yung lalo na yung mga sinauna yung very earliest na mga events na hindi natin matatagpuan o hindi natin mapapako to a certain date kasi hindi ito mai-refer sa ibang records. So, ang punto lamang is that many events cross-reference events in the Bible. So, from there, meron tayong common between the history of the Bible, kung ano yung mga nakasad na events dito, at pati yung nasa world history. So, from there, nagko-cross sila. So, therefore, we can confidently insist on a consistent credible and conservative chronology as opposed to suspicions about our chronology. Ibig sabihin lamang, hindi tayo gumagawa ng ating sariling paglikha sa ating mga katang isip at hindi tayo gagawa ng mga komplikadong mga charts and graphs na kung saan ay ipipilit natin na ganito ang kasaysayan at dito nangyari to a certain event ang mga bagay-bagay. And also in the realm of current scholarship, meron dalawang popular na dating methodologies o yung dating convention na tinatawag. So these two popular dating, it forks o naghiwalay sila do sa Exodus, but they both harmonizes in the United Monarchy. So mula do sa event na Exodus ay naghiwalay sila, doon sila nagpa-part ways, pero babalik sila at magiging tugma, magkakasama ulit sila sa panahon ng United Monarchy. Ito yung mga around 1050 BC. So ito yung tinatawag na early date of Exodus at yung late date ng Exodus, and both of these are widely accepted. So firstly, the early date of Exodus, ang Exodus event according to this methodology is around 1446 BC. Kinuha nila ang literal na wording o yung number dito sa 1 Kings chapter 6 verse 1, and in conjunction with other verses kagaya na Acts chapter 13 verse 21, Exodus chapter 12 verse 40, Genesis 47:9, Genesis 25:26, and also Genesis 21:5, and yung pinaka earliest na matetrace using this methodology is Genesis chapter 12 verse 4, wherein it traces the earliest event. Ito yung birth ni Abraham. Nung panahon na yun ay Abram ang kanyang pangalan, sa panahon ng 2166 BC. So this is the farthest that they could get. Ang second methodology naman ay tinatawag na late date of Exodus, na kung saan ayon dito, Exodus happened around 1266 BC. Ganon din ay 1 Kings chapter 6 verse 1, pero ang kanilang interpretation, it probably uses the expression 480 years as a representative number to stand for 12 idealized generations, and about traces the event in 1266 BC. And the birth of Abraham using this methodology is around 1995 BC. So around 200 years yung difference ng nitong early date and also no late date din na Exodus. Pero one lesson that we can learn or we should see here is that the choice of either of these dates does not affect the chronological sequence of the narrative. So ano man yung piliin natin, mag-subscribe man tayo dito sa early date or sa late date, it will not affect the chronological sequence of the narrative of the Bible. So sabihin na natin, miraculous and even wonderful, sapagkat ano man yung sabi ko ay both of these are accepted in scholarship. Ano man yung mag-subscribe ka dyan ay hindi magbabago, hindi lamang yung history ng Biblia, kundi lalo-lalo na yung kanyang theology. Hindi magbabago, hindi maapektuhan. Kaya nawa ay makita natin how God miraculously work even in the natural realm of history. Now we move to the Old Testament timeline. Historians dinivide nila ang kasaysayan sa ilang epochs, at makita natin, simulan natin ito sa first epoch o epoch 1, na kung saan yung inclusive dates nito is from the creation to 2000 BC. So masabi natin ito ay prehistory, and ito yung time before the patriarchs. At ang sumasaklaw sa Biblia, ito yung Genesis chapters 1 hanggang chapter 11. At ang mga key na events dito, nariyan ang creation, the fall of man, the flood, ito yung kay Noah, and the Tower of Babel. So makita rin natin sa mga accounts na ito, bagamat very ancient, ito yung simula from an unknown date of creation hanggang around 2000 BC. So the first 3 chapters of the Bible, ito yung creation and the fall, expresses the themes of creation, sin, judgment, and salvation. Napaka-profound na mga tema ito sa umpisa pa lamang. At nga, ito yung napaka-importante kung bakit kailangan natin i-treat yung creation as a straightforward historical narrative, and only in this manner that gives a logical and internally consistent foundation that does justice to the biblical text and the theology that flows from it. So napakahalaga. Mamaya ay tatalakayin pa natin mas in-depth itong creation and fall. So after the fall of man, makita natin ay inilabas sila ng Diyos sapagkat sila ay nagkasala, si Adam and si Eve. There's Genesis 4 and 5, we can see the life that is outside of the garden. It is manifested by yung gravity, yung bigat pa ng kasalanan. The human race did not fare any better as manifested itself in the sinful hearts of men. Kung titingnan natin, kung tutusin, with only two brothers, si Cain at si Abel. Jealousy, covetousness, and anger lead one to kill the other. So ito yung bunga ng kasalanan. And after that, sa Genesis chapter 6 to 9, ay ang account ng flood. Violence increased on earth. Ito nga sabi sa first 5 verses ng chapter 6. And God sends judgment through flood. But God makes a covenant that would preserve the whole creation. Ito yung Noahic covenant. And we come to the Babel account sa Genesis chapters 10 and 11. So although the human race seeks to advance without God, God disperses them across the earth. So ito yung makikita natin sa first 11 chapters na Genesis, or from the beginning hanggang around 2000 BC. At also sa outside records, sa secular records ng world history, nakita rin doon that the advent of writing around 3000 BC marks the historical era as humans begin preserving information concerning economies, laws, and religion. So ito'y nag-aakma o very parallel sa biblical history. Next, we come to the second epoch or epoch 2. Ang span na to ay 2000 BC hanggang 1500 BC. It's also called the Patriarchs. It is from Genesis chapter 12 hanggang chapter 50. So from Genesis 12 hanggang end ng aklat ng Genesis. So, ang mga prominent figures dito ay si Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. So sila yung patriarchs, yung forefathers nitong Israel. So God calls one man, si Abraham, to come away from his home and move to a land that God will show him. And in so doing, God promises land, seed, and blessing for Abraham and his offspring. So nagkaroon ng tipan ang Diyos kay Abraham na kung saan siya mismo ang nagtawag dito kay Abraham. At nagbigay siya ng pangako dito kay Abraham. And also yung very familiar na account na hindi ni-withhold ni Abraham, yung kanya kaisa-isang anak lamang na si Isaac. Ito is sa Genesis chapter 22. This demonstrated his total trust and dependence on God. Also yung mga sumunod na generations galing dito kay Abraham ay si Isaac, si Jacob na ang unang na nagbagong pangalan, naging Israel, and also Joseph. Ito is sa Genesis chapters 24 to 37, and Joseph prominently sa chapters 38 to 50. Tumanggap rin si Isaac ng pangako mula sa Diyos na kagaya dito kay Abraham, and God exercises His sovereignty in granting Isaac's son Jacob the birthright, even though this is not the custom, sapagkat ang panganay ay si Esau. He is the firstborn. But God favors Jacob, and Jacob was blessed. At sa yung susunod na salinlahi pa, si Joseph, nangyari sa kanya, he ended up in Egypt. Sapagkat kung pabalikan natin, nagselos yung kanyang mga kapatid, at nang ginawa sa kanya ay worst. He was sold to slavery, and they lied dun sa kanilang ama na sinabi nila ay nilapa ng beast ito si Joseph. But he ended up in Egypt where he continues to trust God. At lahat ng nangyari dito sa buhay niya, he recognizes all of this, that while his brothers meant to harm him, God worked it out for the good of Joseph and for the saving of many lives. Nagkaroon ng famine, ng tagtuyot, walang pagkain. So makita natin na napakahirap ng buhay and the certainty of death. Pero dahil tinalaga o nilagay niyan Diyos sa pamamagitan ng mga sirkumstansya sa buhay, ito si Joseph, patungo do sa posisyon na yun, ay na-preserve niya hindi lamang ang mga Egyptians, kundi pati rin yung kanyang mga yung family niya, and also the other nations as well. So in that sense, naging siyang blessing, pagpapala sa other nations. And also in the world history, we can see ang tawag dito sa 2000 BC hanggang 1500 BC is the Middle Bronze Age, and it produced one of the more archaeologically rewarding sites that have been discovered. Ito yung tatawag na sa lugar na Mesopotamia, at ang natagpuan doon ay yung Mari letters. It is very crucial para mag-shed light dito sa ancient history. And also after about 2200 BC, the great empires of the early Bronze Age, they fell apart. Nagkaroon ng political instability and unrest. It spread across Egypt and Mesopotamia. So makita natin, this is very archaeologically rewarding tong time na ito, and very rich din sapagkat na-preserve. Nakita natin yung pagkilos ng kamay ng Diyos sa buhay ni Abraham, ni Isaac, ni Jacob at ni Joseph. Ang Israel ngayon bilang isang bansa, napakaraming tao na nila, sila ngayon ay nasa Ehipto na, at ito yung setting ng mga nasusunod na epoch. And the third epoch, ito yung epoch number 3, it covers the dates of 1500 BC hanggang 1200 BC. Ito yung nasabi natin na that the rise of a unified people. So this spans Exodus chapter 1. So yung umpisa ng Exodus hanggang Joshua chapter 24, the end of Joshua. Basically, dito yung bulk ng ating mga natalakay before sa mga previous lessons natin. Ang mga prominente na theme or mga events na makita natin is yung Exodus event. It is deliverance from Egypt. Also, nandiyan yung Sinai Covenant, yung mas kilala sa Ten Commandments or Mosaic Covenant. Nariyan rin yung tabernacle and God's presence, yung paggawa dito, pag-erect, and also yung pangakong presensya ng Diyos. Nilagay rin dito sa time na ito yung sacrifices for individual and the institution of the priesthood. And also the issue of uncleanness, and lalong-lalo na the Day of Atonement. Also sa malaking part ng Leviticus, malaking chunk dyan ay yung Holiness Code, Covenant Blessings, as well yung kanilang dedication. Then also we can see here yung event sa Numbers, yung contrast na disobedient generation sa yung obedient generation, na kung saan itong disobedient generation, bagamat they have seen the wonders and powers of God rescuing them from Egypt, sila pa rin ay nag-complain. Napakaraming rebellions ang nangyari dito sa Numbers, pero ang pangako pa rin ng Diyos is that makakatawid sila sa Promised Land. And yung ending ng Deuteronomy, or the bulk of Deuteronomy rather, contains the speeches of Moses. Ito yung huling aklat ng Pentateuch. Ito yung Deuteronomy chapter 1 to 30. Makita dito yung mga speech ni Moses. And therefore, nagkaroon rin na transition sapagkat mamamatay na si Moses. Nagkaroon na transition from leadership mula kay Moses patungo ngayon kay Joshua. Ito yung sa ending, huling mga kakabanata na Deuteronomy. And last week, tayo ay nakatawid na sa Joshua, na kung saan they have conquered the Promised Land. Nagkaroon ng distribution doon sa land and resolving conflicts dito. And the end of Joshua chapters 23 and 24, nagkaroon ng covenant renewal and recommitment, na kung saan matanda na si Joshua, siya ay mamamatay na. He gives his farewell address. He recounts the history of how God had repeatedly delivered them, given them victory, and blessed them. Joshua exhorts the people to continue to serve the Lord. At isa nga sa mahalaga rin na background dito, lalo na sa epoch number 3, is that Deuteronomy chapter 28, ito yung blessings and curses, this sets the stage for the rest of the Old Testament. And looking forward, the prophets will rely heavily on Deuteronomy chapter 28 as they pronounce judgment on Israel. And also, sa world history naman, ito yung epoch na to is the beginning for the last great period of prosperity for ancient Egypt and also the New Kingdom. Babagsak na ang napakalaking kaharian ng Egypt sa panahon na ito. So after our quick rundown from the events that happened from Genesis to Joshua, ay tinignan rin natin individually sa ating mga lessons, sa mga specific books, yung ilang theological theme. Pero po sa panahon na ito, dito sa ating review, ay titingnan naman natin to sa ibang anggulo. At titingnan natin ang tema na salvation through judgment, ang pagkaligtasan buhat ng judgment, ang paghuhusga ng Diyos. Sabi nga ni James Hamilton Jr., isa siya sa mga nagsulat patungkol sa biblical theology ng theme o yung motif is salvation from judgment. He says, the Torah, o ito yung first 5 books, is a story of the glory of God in salvation through judgment. The world is created, the image bearers rebel, judgment and mercy are shown to them, and a covenant is eventually initiated with Abraham through which the nations will be blessed. Ito daw yung makikita na tema na flowing mula sa umpisa hanggang sa huli. So tingnan natin panandalian kung how this theme flowed throughout sa aklat ng Genesis to Joshua. Unang-una tingnan natin is the theme of salvation through judgment in Genesis. Genesis tells us how everything was made. God spoke and it was. The sinless condition in the pristine garden with uninhibited access to God's presence is soon lost. Ito yung makita natin sa Genesis, sa creation account. Napakaganda nung pagsasama, perfect, harmonious ang buhay doon sa hardin, the garden in Eden. Pero we know that it would soon be lost. Adam and Eve fell and was banished from the garden. They were judged with promises folded into the judgment, bagamat sila ay hinatulan ng Diyos by banishing them at nagkaroon pa ng curses, pero merong kaligtasan, may pagtutubos doon. But babalikan natin yung Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. Ito yung tatawag na proto-evangelium, na kung saan nangako muna ang Diyos bago siya maghatid ng mga sumpa. Second thing to note sa Genesis is that God then promises to bless Abraham and all the world through him. These blessings of Genesis chapter 12, it corresponds to the curses in Genesis chapter 3 in significant ways. And the rest of Genesis traces the passing down of the blessings to Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. So, paano nga ba ito may kaugnayan, yung mga blessings sa Genesis chapter 12 sa mga sumpa dito sa Genesis chapter 3? Sa Genesis chapter 3 ay nagkaroon doon yung tinatawag na seed conflict, na kung saan yung seed ni Eve ay magkakaroon ng conflict sa seed of the snake. So, all the families of the earth will be blessed in you. Ito yung binanggit sa Genesis chapter 12 verses 3 at ito inulit sa 22:18 and 26:4. So mula dito sa binhi ni Abraham ay magkakaroon ng blessing. So this is in contrast with dun sa conflict na meron dyan sa Genesis chapter 3 between the seed of the woman and seed of the snake, na kung saan ngayon instead of curses ay blessings ay ang maihahatid mula sa binhi ni Abraham. Also, yung gender conflict na kung tutusin, wherein ang sumpa sa babae is that she will desire for her husband, but the remedy is that the husband will lord over the woman. Sa Genesis chapters 11, 12, and 17, nabanggitan, I will make you a great nation, na kung saan kung tutusin, barren ito si Sarah, but she will have a seed. Therefore, ang kanyang atong gender conflict na ito ay may titwid sapagkat meron niyang lording over na magaganap sa pamamagitan ng seed na ito. Very miraculous, yet indeed it is God who provided this to be possible. And also the land conflict na makita rin natin sa Genesis chapter 3 verse 17, ako saan ang sumpa dito kay Adan is the land will no longer be for you or with you, sapagkat ikaw ay magtotoil, ay paghirapan mo yan, and into the dust you shall return. Dito sa Genesis chapter 12 verses 1 to 2 and verse 7, ang pangako sa kanya, to your offspring a great nation I will give this land. Ibibigay ang lupa na ito, na kung saan ang lupa na ito, since this is the promise land given by God, it should no longer be in conflict against do sa pinangakong sumpa dito kay Adan. Next, we should see this theme of salvation through judgment in Exodus. Firstly, Exodus briefly recounts the fulfillment of part of God's promise that the descendant of Abraham would be numerous, marami. Sabi nga, ang kanyang mga posterity ay parang mga dami ng stars at mga sand. And before recounting the way that God made himself known to them, that it is He who saved them from the judgment of Egypt. So nireveal ni God ang kanyang sarili bilang tagapagligtas muli nila sa pamamagitan ng paghahatol sa Egypt. So there is salvation through judgment. God forced then the world superpower Egypt to bend the knee, getting glory over Pharaoh, whom He raised up for this very thing. Even si Pharaoh, na ang Diyos ang nagtaas sa kanya, in order for God showing His glory in the salvation of His people. So even this, we can see that there is salvation through judgment. Pero hindi rito nagtatapos yung salvation through judgment sa Exodus, sapagkat after the judgment of Egypt, the narrative moves to the judgment of the stiff-necked people that God chose for Himself. So after ng judgment sa Egypt, yung mga matitigas na ulo naman, mga nagrereklamo, mga nagre-rebel sa Diyos, sila naman ngayon ang hinatulan. God judges Israel's sin and saves them through judgment and announces His glory bound up in His presence. It is the tabernacle, through the tabernacle, na kung saan dyan mananahan ang Diyos. At kung babalikan natin sa mga previous lectures natin, the threefold formula of covenantal relationship and promise is that God says, I will be your God, you will be my people, and I will dwell in your midst. So marami na ang naging lahi, yung posterity ni Abraham. So meron na dun yung people part, and also God will now dwell with them. I will be in your midst. So therefore, it is God that saved them sa pamamagitan ng paghatol, hindi lamang sa Egypt, but also dito sa mga stiff-necked people na kanyang iniligtas mula doon sa Egypt, na sa ganun ang kanyang presensya, and they would glory in His presence. Continuing the theme of salvation through judgment, we now move in Leviticus. So the presence of God in the tabernacle requires holiness, and thus Israel is now a nation that is learning how to live with the holy God. So Israel can be made unclean in two ways. Una-una, contact with the dead, and secondly, transgression of God's commands. Israel can be made clean in only one way, by offering the prescribed sacrifices and following the clear instructions for cleansing. So ito yung makita natin na how they would become unclean. Tandaan natin, they are living in the midst of the presence of God, which requires of them holiness. And kung sila ay naging unclean, they need to be clean in order to approach God only in the prescribed manner. So point being is that the Levitical system, it only operates by faith. Israel must believe that God requires holiness and sin merits His wrath. And all the attributes of God and the sacrifices testifies to the glory of God, who judges sin and punishes transgression, yet He is merciful for Israel. He is merciful, pinakita niya ito sa pamamagitan ng pag-prescribe ng tamang approach para makalapit sa Kanya, kung paano malilinis ang kanilang karumihan. And so, therefore, they see that God takes serious matter of His holiness and also the transgressions of His people. And now we can see this theme of salvation through judgment in Numbers. So at each point, God saves Israel through judgment. And some Israelites die because of the judgment. But the nation is preserved through God's holiness. Bagamat sila hinatulan ng Diyos, mga stiff-necked people, mga rebellious people, mga disobedient and unfaithful people mula dito mismo sa Israel, na kung saan iniligtas niya mula sa Ehipto, God pours in His judgment through some of them, yung tinatawag na disobedient generation. But also, God preserves them. There is salvation, na kung saan yung susunod na generation, the faithful generation, is preserved sa pamamagitan ng kabanalan ng Diyos, ng pagiging niya tapat sa kanyang tipan at mga pangako. Isang curious case dito, yung oracles of Balaam sa Numbers chapter 24, na kung saan binayaran siya to pronounce curses dito sa Israel, pero ang lumabas sa kanyang bibig ay blessing, pagpapala. At ito nga, yung mga pagpapala na ito, it is an allusion to the blessing of Abraham and bind it fast to the promises of a king in Israel. Bagamat wala pang hari sa panahon na itong Israel, there would come a time, and this oracles of Balaam is a blessing for Israel, is a blessing for the country. It is a fulfillment, kung tutusin, a restatement of the blessing to Abraham and to the promises to the king of Israel. We come now to the theme of salvation through judgment in Deuteronomy. So Deuteronomy prepares Israel for the next aspect of the fulfillment of the promise to Abraham. Ito na ngayon yung land, the conquest of the land. Israel's history is briefly reviewed and they are given every reason to love God and keep His commandments. And also they were given the choice, maliwanag ito sa kanila, the choice between life or death, blessings or curses, and also it impacts them for the rest of their history and our history as well. So ang punto lamang is that the laws in Deuteronomy, bagamat napakahirap nga na ito, it elaborates upon and exposit the Ten Commandments. Tandaan natin, nagbigay na specific situations dito si Moses at expansions through the law, pero ang pinaka-principle nito is the Ten Commandments na kung saan sinasalamin nito ang attributes ni God, for He is holy and He is just. So therefore, bagamat there is salvation in Deuteronomy, there is also judgment, life and death, blessings and curses. And finally, we arrive to the theme of salvation through judgment in Joshua. So the book of Joshua shows much of the pronouncement, particularly in Deuteronomy, being fulfilled. So the total destruction of the inhabitants of the land, it heralds the infinite majesty of the justice of God, whose holiness demands perfect loyalty, whose worth is such that anything less than absolute. Kung babalikan natin sa previous lecture, ay natalakay natin ito sa dulo na kung saan ang yung tinutukoy na ethnic cleansing o yung genocide na kung tutusin, kung titingnan lamang natin na maigi, the total destruction of the inhabitants, ito ay pagpapakita that they are very wicked and this is divine judgment. So makikita pa rin natin that there is salvation for Israel through the judgment of the wicked people, the wicked inhabitants. And the conquest of Canaan, it enacts the glory of God's justice against those who look to worthless things to be for them what only God can be or should be for them. They are pagan, they are idolaters. So hindi sila tapat sa Diyos. Sila gumagawa ng mga Diyos-Diyosan at sinasamba nila ito. They are full of wickedness, abominations. And this is divine judgment for them. For those people who look to worthless things to be for them what only God can be and should be for them. So ang justice na ito against the inhabitants of Canaan is intended to deliver Israel from the influence of idolaters and give them the land. So there is salvation again, preserving them mula dito sa mga pagano na ito na kung saan sila ma-influence at mahatak papalayo sa tunay na Diyos. So there is salvation, there is preservation for them through the judgment of these idolaters. So having said this, the study of biblical theology is a must. Hindi lamang ito para sa nasa realm ng academe, kundi para sa lahat ng mga Kristiyano, hindi lamang doon sa nasa ministry, either teaching or preaching and everything, but it is essential to all Christians. Kung ikaw ay mananampalataya, kailangan ay matutunan mo ito, itong biblical theology. Hindi lamang ito ay theology that is biblical, which all theology should be, pero makita mo dapat kung paano yung pagkilos ng Diyos sa pagtutubos ng masamang mga tao, sinful humanity. So biblical theology helps us clarify the Bible's main purpose, hindi magiging saan-saan napupunta ang ating kaisipan patungkol sa pagliligtas ng Diyos. It is clear, it should be clear, lalo-lalo na sa ating evangelism. We must be looking at the meta-narrative and arrive at Christ. Makita natin sa pamamagitan din na ito tatawag na meta-narrative o yung overarching na tema ng kaligtasan, and it should culminate and it should point us and we should arrive at that conclusion that it is Christ who fulfills salvation. Sa punto lamang, this bears a lot to our belief, and believers should need to actually know for us to be deeply rooted, and therefore we should have a clear hope, sapagkat kung hindi maliwanag sa atin kung paano ang pagtutubos ng Diyos mula sa umpisa hanggang sa huli, ang ating pananampalataya ay magiging magaan o di kaya madaling magiba. But if we have a clear understanding of who God is, how or what we are before God, what our sin is before God, and who our hope is in front of God, then therefore we have that assurance. Nabanggit ko po kanina kung bakit napaka-importante ng unang aklat. To be more precise, yung unang mga kabanata sa Genesis, the creation and the fall of man. It is very important, kaya dapat meron tayong solid foundation dito. Why? Because firstly, Genesis is the foundation of the gospel. Ang bawat mananampalataya, sila naniniwala at nananampalataya sa Ebanghelyo. But it is in Genesis where the foundation of the gospel can be seen. Everything starts with Adam. If Adam did not bring sin and death into the world, then Christ did not need to come to save us. Paul clearly understood this and communicates this to us sa 1 Corinthians chapter 15, yung kabanata dito patungkol sa resurrection. And also in Romans chapter 5 na kung saan ay pinapakita niya yung ating federal headship, yung ating magiging representative ni Adam sa buong humanity. And Adam fell, therefore sin entered the world and death to all. Kamatayan ang hinatid nito. Pero sa pamamagitan ng katwiran ni Jesucristo, ang buhay ay binigay sa marami. So therefore, makita natin na maliwanag, Adam and the second Adam, Jesus Christ, where Adam fell, Christ is victorious. The gospel writers emphasizes the link of Christ to Adam sa pamamagitan rin ng genealogy. Sa gospel writers, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, ginamit nila genealogy para makita nila kung how Christ is related through Adam. And Jesus himself knew what his mission was, to undo the sentence of death on humanity and the curse of corruption on creation. Lalahanin natin nung nagkasala si Adan at si Eve, pumasok ang kasalanan, nagkaroon ng sumpa, hindi lamang ang tao kundi ang buong creation. There is now curse and corruption. Pero sa pamamagitan ng katwiran ni Jesus and the whole creation, hindi lamang tayo, hindi lamang sinful humanity, but also the whole creation, as stated in Romans chapter 8, they look forward to that day when Christ comes again and the whole creation would be redeemed. And the effect of the curse will be no longer there, far as the curse is found. So, point being is that Jesus came to save us because Genesis A is history. Ito'y tunay na kasaysayan. Ang nangyayari na sa creation ng mundo, si Adam, he is a real Adam, and the fall is a real fall, and therefore Jesus Christ is the real person, and his righteousness is the real thing that we need in order for us to be right before God. Sabi nga ni Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones, I have no gospel unless Genesis is history. Secondly, kung bakit napakahalaga ng Genesis is that Genesis is the solution for our culture. Alalahanin natin ang kultura ay nagbabago-bago. Nagbabago rin ito, depende sa geographic location, depende rin sa time. At makita natin yung mga norms, societal norms ay nagbabago din, lalo-lalo na in our modern times. Kung saan meron ng strange cultural ideas are being promoted and are being embraced today. Makita na rin natin ito sa malawakan na pushing for the acceptance of the transgender movement at yung pagbabago sa definition and yung qualifications ng kasal. Point being is that if God created man in His own image as male and female, tandaan natin, nung nilikha ng Diyos si Adam and Eve, He created them in His image as male and female. Then we are essentially created as male or female from the beginning. So that it is. Malinaw yan na ang ginawa ng Diyos is male or female lamang. Our sex or yung gender natin cannot be changed. Hindi yan magbabago ano man ipilit natin. Pagamat yung outward forms nito ay magbago, ang reality doon ay hindi nagbago ang ating kasarian. So Genesis is the ultimate countercultural book that provides the standard for how we should live or how we should order our lives. Kaya napakahalaga na Genesis sapagkat magbago man ang kultura sa iba't ibang lugar, sa iba't ibang panahon. Pero ang standard and an order ng creature sa harapan ng kanyang creator ay hindi magbabago. Thirdly, why Genesis is so important? Because Genesis is being reinterpreted by evolutionists. Yung theistic evolution na tinatawag, or sometimes it is called evolutionary creation, is the idea that reintroduces the Darwinian evolution into Christian theology. Kung babalikan natin or kung napag-aralan natin itong Darwinian evolution na kung saan yung millions and millions of years or very long span of years na kung saan nag-e-evolve yung mga creatures, at ang katunayan daw nito ay pwede itong i-insert sa Christian theology. Kung tutusin, hindi ito compatible. So, injecting the possibility of evolution within Genesis, specifically yung creation account, dyan napapasok yung tatawag ng mga gap theories and everything. It gives us a completely different history of the world. Laganap ito sa realm ng academe. At ganito rin yung tinuturo marahil sa mga aklat natin, sa mga science books natin. Sapagkat they have subscribed sa theory ni Darwin, ni Charles Darwin. And even worse ay ito ay ini-inject sa ating banal na kasulatan in the Bible. Point being is that not only is it teaching a bad theology, but it is also presenting to us unsound scientific theories. Kung magiging honest lamang ang mga nagre-reinterpret ng Genesis in subscribing to the Darwinian evolution theory, it is bad theology and unsound scientific theory sapagkat hindi ito tatanggapin din in the realm of an honest science. So why is Genesis so important? Ang fourth and last na sabihin na natin thesis is the history in Genesis is confirmed by the world around us. The events that Genesis records can be confirmed by studying the world around us, material world, and even yung tao. Huge layers of sediment stacked across the continents and filled with fossils. Makita natin ito sa iba't ibang lugar. Hindi lamang ito isolated areas, kundi maisip natin paano nakaabot yung mga fossils sa mga matataas na lugar, sa mga bundok. Lalahanin natin, fossils, ito yung mga remains na mga namatay na either plants or animals. So, bakit nga ba umabot sila doon sa taas ng bundok? Makikita minsan may mga seashells sa taas ng bundok. So, it only points us to the evidence of a global flood. Also, yung mga mutually dependent, interrelated complexity of endless biological systems and ecosystems. Yung mga lalo-lalo na yung mga animals, mga uri, iba't ibang uri, yung kanilang environment na kung saan it depended upon one another. It shows to us the evidence for a six-day creation na kung saan they are interrelated, they are mutually dependent, at napakadami na iba-ibang uri sa makikita natin sa biological systems natin. But more so, yung pinaka-proof that Genesis can be confirmed by the world around us is the reality of death, sin, and corruption everywhere. Hindi lamang ito isolated na lugar. Hindi lamang ito dahil sa some form of abnormalities, but this is universal across all people of every ethnicity, color, age, gender, and status sa buhay. Everything, everyone around the world in all given time is the evidence of a universal fall. So point lamang is that Genesis gives us a history that is dependable and reliable. Hindi natin mapagkakaila ito sapagkat sino bang tao ang mapagkakaila na ang katotohanan ng kamatayan, ang korupsyon, hindi lamang sa ating mga pagkilos, kundi the whole world mismo is decaying. Who can contest that? But it is a profound evidence of the universal fall. Therefore, Genesis is so important because the history of the world, the history that is confirmed by Genesis is the true history of humanity. So a quick recap, why is Genesis so important? yung apat na thesis na ito, Genesis is the foundation of the gospel, Genesis is the solution for our culture, Genesis is being reinterpreted by evolutionists, and the history in Genesis is confirmed by the world around us. Ang lesson na pwede natin i-draw out sa ating pagre-review mula dito sa Genesis to Joshua, ultimately it comes back to the authority of the scripture. Just as Jesus, Peter, Paul, Luke, and John saw Genesis as a historical authority, therefore, as believers, we should also see this as is. Sapagkat ang Genesis, it was referred to and to by Jesus himself and the apostles, at tayo rin bilang mananampalataya na nagsasubmit sa katuruan ng mga apostol and having Jesus as our Savior, we must also likewise see that the historical authority of Genesis. And also when Christians recognize that Genesis is actually history, it will change the way we view everything else. Hindi lamang ating sariling buhay, kundi yung buong constitution ng tao bilang fallen creatures needing a savior mula sa kanilang kasalanan. Therefore, it would push us to evangelize, to be a witness of, to testify for the wondrous grace of salvation and point people to Christ. So, only if we can see Genesis as actual history, then we can see that Christ is the actual solution. At sa aking pagtatapos na kung saan tinignan natin short review, quick review ng past 7 lectures natin sa Biblical Theology, ako po ay mag-iiwan sa atin lahat ng dalawang quotations. Ang unang quotation ay nagmula sa tinatawag na Father of Modern Biblical Theology. Ang sabi niya, if the creation history is an allegory meaning hindi ito real na nangyari, ito ay binibigyan ng ibang kahulugan. So if the creation history is an allegory, then the narrative concerning the fall and everything further that follows can also be an allegory. The writer of the Pentateuch presents his work entirely as history. Ito yung sabi ng the very words of Gerhardus Voss, being the father of modern biblical theology. At the second quotation ay galing po sa inyong lingkod. If the fall of man did not literally and really happen, then Christianity offers the worst principle there is, a hypothetical solution to a mythological problem. Kung titingnan natin kung hindi nga tunay na nangyari ang pagkahulog natin sa kasalanan, ang ating pinoproklama even at the cost of our lives, countless generations of Christians mula pa noong umpisa hanggang sa mga susunod na henerasyon pa, we are proclaiming a same message. Kung hindi nga totoo nangyari na nahulog si Adan at Eva bilang kahalili natin sa hardin, therefore, ang ating pinoprovide is that a hypothetical solution. Hindi ito totoo, maring makamali lang o wala lamang. At ang solusyon na ito, bagamat hypothetical ito, ay para lamang sa isang mythological problem. Isang problema na hindi naman pala totoo. So, sino magsasubscribe sa isang solusyon sa isang hindi naman totoong problema? So, nakakahiya ang pananampalatayang Kristyanismo if the fall of man did not literally and really happen. Pero alam natin that it is real. It is literally real. And in fact, it did happen. And it best explains our history as fallen man, needing of salvation ourselves and pointing us to the Redeemer in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Nawa ay maliwanagan tayo at lalo pang tumibay ang ating pananampalataya at nagkaroon tayo ng mas concrete, mas malinaw pa na pag-asa at lalong humahawak tayo kay Kristo Jesus sapagkat ang katwiran lamang niya ang siya magtatawid sa atin patungo sa ating tunay na tahanan sa bagong langit at bagong lupa sapagkat siya lamang, ang katwiran lamang niya ang nagpapatawad sa ating mga kasalanan at nagbibigay ng katwiran na pwedeng humarap sa Diyos. Therefore, it is all centered in Christ. Maraming salamat po muli sa ating lahat at pagpalain kayo ng ating maiksing pag-aaral at pag-review sa ating lecture number 8. Maraming salamat po.